Dear America and Donald John Trump, let us be strong and love all we can. Let us rise above fear and hate. Let us address crimes past and crimes present. Let us do for each other as we've never done before. Let us be truly great in America and the world as our unique human potentials allow and empower. Today is Monday, November 14th, 6 days after the election of Donald Trump as President of the United States. And I've been thinking hard as millions and the tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions around the world, I'm sure, have been thinking hard. And I recur to 5 guiding principles or steps that I've found useful over the past 15 years of investigating crimes of September 11th, 2001, and working with poor people of color in San Francisco and New Orleans. Those guides are courage, clarity, compassion, humor, courage again. They came to me in part from reading a biography of the great Lakota war chief, Crazy Horse, and learning Lakota principles of courage, fortitude, generosity, wisdom. Courage to look at that which may frighten or trouble us. Clarity to see what we're examining. Compassion for the suffering everywhere and among us all. Humor for all our foibles. Courage, again, to act on what we know to be true. So, 6 days after the election of Donald Trump, I've spoken to those close to me as one blood brother, one blood sister, a sister-in-law, brother-in-law, people close to me as brothers or sisters, and many, many people who are more casual acquaintances or friends. To a one, they are upset, they are moved, they are stirred as I haven't seen the United States public by an election since 1968. And now I think the anxiety or the emotion is even more deeply visceral. I hear from my sister-in-law, Frankie, who's of African American and Korean parents, that her sons, Cyrus and Lucian, are being attacked on playgrounds of Los Angeles, like other children of color on playgrounds of Los Angeles. They're coming up to them and saying, "I hate you. You're black. You're going to have to leave this country now that Donald Trump is president." And I read online of incidents on buses and in dormitories whereby one set of students of color, are threatened with nooses and deportation and all kinds of misery and alienation that have been raised principally by the campaign of Donald Trump as he ran for president. And extensively and thoroughly exacerbated by mainstream media throughout the 16 months of Donald Trump's presidential campaign. So I think the first thing, be strong and love all we can. Donald Trump needs to use his platform to address the public of the United States in a way that is deeply heartfelt and remedial, and state as firmly and clearly as he can that everyone here is welcome and the best of his promises during the campaign shall be fulfilled. We need a society of compassion and inclusion, of course, and a society at last of equal opportunity. Donald Trump has a perfect first test, as I said to my brother Ken, in the Dakota Access Pipeline. There's no question that Native rights trump all rights as far as morality goes in North America. So Donald Trump needs to find a way to align himself with the rights of Native peoples and all peoples who are concerned with the future of water and hence the future of all beings on this continent, while still allowing for employment and so forth. It will take a truly radical turn, a turn towards sustainable energy for real solutions to be reached. In the meantime, there are plenty of means to help everyone who is suffering on the plains of North America now. And Donald John Trump can find those means because he's the most powerful person on earth. I think that he succeeded in the election because decade after decade of U.S. administrations have failed the public. Have failed the public in terms of employment, education, environment, and any other promises. And they've especially failed people of color in the United States. So it is very distressing to see talking heads on mainstream media panels continue to abhor Donald Trump as a bogey, when they themselves, in prior administrations, have completely failed to meet the needs of people of color in the United States. There is a second perfect test for Donald Trump as President of the United States, and it's international rather than domestic. Recently, Robert F. Kennedy published a piece titled "Syria, Another Pipeline War." It concerned what he posited as the real reasons for conflict in Syria that owes to intervention and arousal of Sunni and Shiite forces by the West since 2011, when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State of the United States. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. details how there are two contesting pipelines posed for transfer of oil from the Middle East to European markets. One of them is championed by Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the United States, and Great Britain. The other begins in Iran and would travel through Syria and two ports on the Mediterranean. And it's championed by Russia because this pipeline would serve as a complement rather than as a countervention to Russia's exportation of oil to Europe. So, the presence of ISIS or ISIL, the deaths of tens of thousands in Syria since 2011, owe in large part to a contest over who will control the flow of oil and the profits that arise thereby. The invasion of Syria, for again it was an invasion, such as happened to Libya earlier in 2011, also had to do with Syria holding a private central bank, as Libya had a private central bank not controlled by financiers of the Western world. Just as Iraq had a private central bank not controlled by financiers of the Western world prior to its invasion. We have to look beneath the reasons that we receive through mainstream media for the real causes of conflict in our present and our past. Crimes of our present, crimes of our past. All wars are bankers' wars, one documentary alleges of late. If you follow the course of wars over the past 2 centuries, you will in fact see the same financier families as profiting from those wars. And you will see in United States history over the past 50 years, the same financier families profiting from wars from Vietnam to Afghanistan to Bosnia to Serbia to Iraq and on to our present. Donald Trump gave a very stirring and cogent speech in mid-October against such use of power by those whom he calls globalist. Globalist is another term for supranational financier. And his point, and many of his millions of supporters' point, is that the globalists have no interest but their own. They don't care about me, don't care about you. They'll sell anything, anywhere, and they will employ anyone, anywhere for their maximal profit. And their ultimate aim is a kind of complete disempowerment of publics everywhere who will become either chipped human beings, otherwise robotic through control by digital devices, and at the service of banks. I recommend the speech. It's one of the best I've heard by a U.S. president since John F. Kennedy. So, I believe Donald Trump, for that position alone, deserves support as a possibility that has not existed for the U.S. public since John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963. We know also that among his closest advisors are people unquestionably guilty of past crimes having to do with September 11th, 2001. And we await how the relationship between Donald Trump, Rudolph Giuliani, and Larry Silverstein may play out, because it's certain that we cannot have anything like justice in the United States if someone such as Rudolph Giuliani is in any way in charge of justice in the United States. Love all we can. do for each other as we have never before. Find ways to fulfill the dream of America that is held by mothers and poets and visionaries forever. Find a way to fulfill the greatness that is so present still among our public, a greatness that here can be realized only through the empowerment of people of color, just as the greatness of all the Americas and all the world can be realized only through the empowerment of those who come closest from the earth. Since I'm firstly a writer, I'll close with a couple of poems. This is one written in 1977 in Louisiana, Alaska, Tanzania. It's titled Arisen, and it's the poem that titles my first book of poems. Our bodies undergoing fast mutation, spread in lines, compact with dispossession, with the spurious perk of a pop jingle from the U.S. casting into every heart, every brain, and every eye. America modern, it does things for you better than an iPhone in 1977. America, oh, how in years of finned plenty, child chests swelled with singing you. Now, oh, poor brute, stripped super reaper, what's happened? What's happening? We here fear to tell our souls, knowing to whom, to what does our vast home lost belong? Unbounded business, loyal to profit only, economies turn nature under stamps, as ages ago they for usura order. Note that last word from the excerpt. It goes on for 3+ pages. America Modern. And here's a poem more recent that I wrote that came to me, as all real true poems do, just kind of come to you, real true poems and songs. One morning in Caracas, when I was part of a delegation from the Common Ground Collective, Common Ground Relief, to the Chavez government seeking $500,000 to begin organic farming in New Orleans, Lower Ninth Ward. This poem is called Because the River, and it's a poem that I'd sought for many weeks in New Orleans while walking or running along the levee with my dogs. And then one morning, suddenly over coffee in Caracas, up it came. Because the river answers to the moon and gathers silk from all its streams, sky river never choose who touches them and whom they touch. Now, the heart may be turned to calculating things. The heart, el corazón, may be turned to stocks and bonds and checks and tweets and telenovelas. But there, then some band starts. Some band starts. It's frontline brass, sweetly sinuous above the bass of drums, ancient rhythms pounding hip-hop across continents and hemispheres. Second lines and more join in, and the changes that soon arise to brain and blood and limbs and limbs and limbs and limbs are so warm and unexpected and various that they shine, they shine, they shine, shine, shine in their receiver's eyes, alert from their inclusion and their inspiration. And it's all on us anyway. We may hope, I do hope, that Donald John Trump becomes a great, compassionate, revolutionary, empowering to all president. But regardless the president that he becomes, we can still affect and decide our destiny and our futures and our children's futures. We need only to look to one another, to do for each other as never has been done before as a nation in the United States. And we will create the greatest society ever in history, because the history that we will make will be a history of all the world, not a history bound by this nation's borders, important as this nation's borders are for defeating a new world order, but beyond borders, a means by which the entire world and its people can rise according to their gifts, which is why we are here. We are unique among creatures in our capacities, and we have only to look to each other, to work with each other, to enlarge each other, to become something far beyond our current media or imagining. So let me say In closing, talk to someone you don't know tomorrow. Talk to someone whom you may fear, someone you may even think you hate. And you'll find, for sure, as you talk, that that person is invested with something special, something of value to you, and something that you share. Because certainly, for one thing, we are probably all under debt to one bank or another. But all of that can change as we come together and create something completely anew across America and the Americas and the entire earth. We are here at this moment, each of us and all of us, for a very special purpose.